We're speaking to Adele Lim this morning. She is an LA-based award-winning screenwriter and film and TV producer, a proud Malaysian. Thank you so much, Adele, for speaking to us on the Light Breakfast this morning.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, have you always been interested in TV and film? Like, tell us about your earliest memory of just being intrigued by a TV series or a movie.
Oh my God. Well, when I was growing up, we were all obsessed with TV. At that point, there were just three channels. It's RTM1, RTM2, TV Tiga was a big thing. And, I remember in Standard 5, like talking with my friends of like, we had to go home because Pandemonium, some cartoon was playing. And, I think early on, we got, we got all the American TV shows very late. So even though I'm not that old, we got some crazy 80s American shows like Manimal and Automan and Whiz Kids. And I thought that plus Thundercats, it's just like that was my whole childhood. But you never think growing up in PJ that writing for TV is an actual vocation you can pursue. I've always wanted to be a writer, and my parents were, especially for Chinese parents, like actually quite encouraging of this. They both work in advertising. And
Okay.
so, yeah.
So they're okay with you being a writer. So from a young age, you wanted to be a writer.
Yeah, I have very vivid memories of I think from the moment I really could string sentences together, I was just writing stories. They were all terrible. They were garbage, but I really enjoyed doing it.
How do you know? Like, do you keep them and read them now?
Oh, good God, no. Who wants to be that depressed? But I think my parents, they very surprisingly didn't pressure me to do anything like engineering. My mother wanted me to go into economics. So that was her big dream. Yep. Sorry, Mom. And, but they were both in advertising. So they said, well, if you want to write, you could be, a copywriter. You could do creative pitches. So I really thought that was what I was going to do until I got to the States.
Okay. But you went to the States and you took TV and film as a degree.
Yes.
So at that point, did you know that you wanted to write for TV, or you were still just thinking about it?
Not really. I don't think I thought about writing for television until I met this cute boy who was living in my dorm.
Wow.
After graduation. After it's college, after graduation, he said we were in school in Boston. He was going to go drive across the States to work in TV in Los Angeles, where all the TV writers are. And at that point, it was, I think, 96. It was that big Southeast Asian, like the economic collapse, like everything was bad here. So I was going to come back to KL and work. And, Astro was starting up at the time. And I remember coming back over here, and there really were not a lot of opportunities at the time because the economy wasn't doing great. So I decided to stay on in the States and drive out to Los Angeles and try my luck.
Okay, but you took a degree in TV and film, so you must have that in the back of your mind saying that, okay, I might write for TV and film.
Well, that was more, Chinese, a Chinese practical attitude of if I'm going to work as an advertiser and writing, that TV production would come into it because I'd be making commercials. And really that's where the thought of it was. It seemed more specific than degree in communications. But no, I didn't think I'd be writing for television really until I graduated, I think.
Okay, so tell us about your journey then, from your upbringing here in Malaysia to being one of the most successful screenwriters and TV and film producers in Hollywood.
I'm old. That journey would take such a long time. But I would say
a condensed journey.
A condensed journey. All right. The condensed version is when you're growing up in PJ, I was very aware that Malaysia was not the center of the entertainment universe for the world. For us, we all grew up on British books, British TV, American TV. We thought, well, that's where entertainment is made. But in retrospect, I think, looking back on my upbringing, especially now, I am so lucky. All the chances I got, in my SMKP Sri Aman school, to write choral reading things with my classmates. I did all these plays that I forced my poor girlfriends in school to star in. But
surprised she even let you put that past, you know? It's
yeah, well, she saw the error of her ways, you know. It was a super melodramatic.
But
now
it actually happened then.
Yeah. So a lot of my early efforts, I have secondary school to thank for, and I started in the American Transfer Program in KDU over here. Before getting over there, and again, like I said, I met a cute boy who was going to work in television, so I thought I'll do that. And when I came out to Los Angeles, I think the thing that really helped me in the long run was being very ignorant, truly. It's a very hard industry to break into. And there are not a lot of working, at that time, there were not a lot of working women or Asian Americans in the TV writing space. And, it's a very closed system. So I was very lucky to be able to start in it and meet a lot of great writers and mentors along the way who really helped me with my career.
Mhm. But what do you mean by being ignorant helped you?
If you know how daunting and how challenging something is going to be, it's easier to be intimidated. And I really did not know how much I didn't know, especially, I had not been in the country for very long because I did have my degree in Malaysia. There's a lot about American culture I wasn't familiar with. And at that time, this is before streaming and Netflix and all of that. A lot of the 1 hour network dramas are all about, very white families, white guy heroes. And so you have to be able to write for that voice. And there are things in a writer's room, common experiences the writers share growing up American, going to prom, camping, skiing, that kind of thing, where we don't know anything about those things. But again, having grown up on American TV, like the rest of the world, I think we're more familiar with American culture than they are of our culture. So that was helpful. Okay. And also, and you don't know that you are an oppressed minority. So, I was very like mouthy in the room and pitching ideas. Even when people shut you down, they're like, oh, maybe they didn't hear me. Maybe I'll pitch it again. As opposed to, there are a lot of Asian Americans who grew up in America who had a really hard time in grade school or middle school getting bullied. And that affects your outlook in life. And and that's why I talk about, being really blessed in many ways to have grown up in Malaysia, where, we're just so multicultural, we're multiracial. And at no point, did I feel like I didn't belong in the room.
Okay. Now you've worked on major TV projects, Xena, The Warrior Princess, One Tree Hill, Life on Mars, and this was all in the beginning of your career. So how did you eventually get your foot in the door?
A lot of writers, I wouldn't say most, start off as writer's assistants. So so that you can work around the writers. And really it's a job where people are overqualified and grossly underpaid. And I think I worked for free for, half a year or more than that. I begged my way into a job working for Xena Warrior Princess. And it's a great apprenticeship. It's a way to learn, to see how story is broken, story outlines, and how writers are in a room breaking those ideas. And in TV, the writer is king. So we oversee all aspects of pre-production, production, writing the scripts, post-production. And so when you get in the system, you learn about it, and then you have to come up with writing samples, what we call specs. That means if you write something on spec, that means no one paid you to do it. You're doing it as a sample. So I worked very, very hard on a lot of different writing samples. I had the guidance and mentorship of the writers that I worked with. That's another benefit of, basically becoming an indentured servant to a writer's room, that you get to make all these contacts on top of learning, your craft. So, and the next big important step is getting representation, because nobody takes blind submissions for a show. You can't just like write to The Sopranos or whatever and say, I'm a great writer, read my script. You're never going to get read. You have to have a manager or an agent representing you, someone who believes in your work. And you have to have other writers who are willing to put in a good recommendation for you. Okay. But again, it's really competitive, and sometimes it's craft and sometimes it's luck.
Okay. But like you said earlier, the writer in a TV series, most of the time, they're the king. So they're involved in a lot of aspect of production as well. So do they select the actors, like, the wardrobe,
Yep.
the location, based on something
Yep.
that they've envisioned writing the script?
Yes, 100%. So it's different in movies, but in TV, because it's all driven by the script and the story, and there's so many episodes, and you have to write and shoot them so fast. The story has to be on point. So even though on my first few shows, I'm not the showrunner. I didn't create the show. I'm not running it. But as a junior writer, they would send me to a set where, you're 25, 26. You have a 300-person crew looking at you going, is her dress red? What time of day is it? Actors are looking to you asking, what's my motivation? Why am I making this stupid joke when my sister just died in the scene before this? You have to have answers for all of that. And I've mentioned this before on other places, but a memory that sticks with me is on an early show I worked on, Las Vegas. One day you're rushing to meet a deadline. You're writing this crazy story about like gangsters getting in a fight in a duck restaurant. And the next day there's a whole line of actors outside, waiting to read for the part that you've written. There are set designers saying like, look at these pictures. Is this the restaurant you envisioned? And so really you pull things out of your mind one day, and they are making it a reality the next day. It's a wonderful feeling.
Amazing. It's like putting your mind into real life.
Yeah. And, and you also asked about casting. So there's that too, where, studios, they have their casting directors, but they do all the weeding out beforehand, and then they send you their short list, and I would be in the room reading across from them, looking at their tape, seeing who's right for the part, all of those things.
So in that case, if you wrote something, let's just say you envisioned a certain actor in that particular role, and then the casting director goes, no, that's not right. Can you say, no, I want this particular person? Does that work?
100%. The casting director doesn't dictate who is in your movie. Their job is to find and source talent, and they're creative too. They try to match the right actor with the right part. But the person making the decision ultimately is usually the showrunner. So whoever's running the show. And and the showrunner's busy, he or she has, 22 episodes. So you're in casting too. So you make your recommendations, and depending on, where you are in the hierarchy, or your taste, or your relationship with your showrunner, or if I'm running the show, it's my decision. Of course, if the studio can kibosh anything, but it's generally not their decision. But they can say, this person is not attractive enough. We want to be able to shoot a promo and get, women excited to see this handsome man. We need a hotter guy. Like they can weigh in with stuff like that. But generally, it's your decision.
These days, though, is it
Wow.
a lot about, we don't want your actor, not enough followers on social media? Does that happen right now?
You know what? I haven't heard it used that way, but there is sometimes pressure to use some talent if they have a huge social media following. And, and that's a double-edged thing. On one hand, it's wonderful that young people can, be weirdly entrepreneurial and get that kind of following and for themselves. And it's good for you. It's good for them, and it's good for your project because it gets more eyeballs on your project.
Yeah.
But just because you can do something on social media doesn't mean you can do it in a professional environment. For example, I remember we were talking about, there's this cool skateboarder or dancer who can do these cool tricks. At that point it was like Vine, and now it would be TikTok.
Vine, man, okay.
Back in the day, man, when all this was starting out. But, that's because they're at home, spending 7 hours trying to get one trick right. And then on social media, they only see those, 10 seconds or 15 seconds, but it took them 7 hours to get there. Whereas if you show up on set, we need you to be able to do it right away. So yeah, we need professionals.
Wow. I mean, now that I've heard from you, writers, they have a lot of weight on their shoulders. You have to be on set, right? You have to be on set as well, most of the time.
Yeah.
And you write before the production starts. You are there during production and even post. Do you do post as well?
Yeah. Yes, we post it. Now, this is just how I grew up as a writer over here. Things are changing now because of streaming. Writers aren't getting as much time on set, but every show I've been on, almost every single show I've been on, you write it in the room, you know, you break story in the room with other writers, you write it, you're in all the pre-production meetings, you're going on tech scouts with your production team. Your directors are the ones who sort of come in and go out. And you also do post-production. You look at, because if you were there on set every single day, you know all the different takes that were taken. And so when you're looking at the cut, you can say, oh, you know what, she's not emotional enough in there. I know for a fact we have a different take on that. Let's use that instead. I know there's a different angle. Let's use that instead. Yeah, it's all for TV. It really all does fall on the writers.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm exhausted.
So every time you're in a project, you're like totally just in it. Like for a couple of months, you can't do anything else but that project.
Yes, and so a question I frequently get asked from other Malaysians, you know, they start with, "Oh, isn't it glamorous?" And I think most people here don't even think about that because you're just so tired. You just want a nap. When you are in a TV show, especially if you're one of the most senior writers, it is your life. It is your baby 24/7. And it's hard to carve out a personal life, a family life on top of all of that. Especially if you're running a show, you are thinking it is more work than can possibly be done in any given day. You go to, like, I'll go to sleep thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it.
So for millennials thinking, I want to be a screenwriter, I want to be a writer, but I want work-life balance. You're not going to get it.
Well, you know what? I think work-life balance is very important, and hopefully our industry is changing. It definitely is with the pandemic. Listen, nothing could slow us down. Before the pandemic, I feel like my life was on a Japanese bullet train for 10 years. And this thing forced all of us to stay at home. And suddenly it's like, look, I have children. Look, I have to learn how to cook lunch. I have to learn how to like mop my own floors. It's a whole new world.
Now, Adele, is it easier to sort of write your own original screenplay rather than adapting a screenplay from a book or from another TV series? Which is easier for you?
It's all terrible. It's all hard. It's all bleeding out of your ears.
This is the best, most revealing interview ever. Love this.
Here's the thing. The dirty secret is with writers, it's not like, oh, I'm writing, it's magic, I'm taking dictation from God. It's never like that. It's always like, I'm stupid. I have no talent. This is garbage. Everybody's going to realize like they made a huge mistake hiring me on this. But to your question of which is easier, I don't know if there are things that are easier. I think it's about if you have a lot of natural passion and you identify with your subject, makes it easier and more authentic to write. Oftentimes it's easier adapting something else because it's already been thought of for you. You don't have to make a world from scratch, because when you're making a world from scratch, every decision feels like it could be wrong. You know, that there's an infinite number of wrong decisions and one right decision, and you can spend a lot of time spinning in your wheels trying to, debating whether or not you did it right.
Now let's talk about Crazy Rich Asians. You're one of the screenwriters for this very successful motion picture featuring an all-Asian cast and an Asian director, Asian American director. How did you get involved in this project?
I never had any desire really to work in film because, as I said, TV, working, features, you are a script monkey. So, but I worked with the director, John Chu, in TV. We had sold a pilot, that means like an idea for a TV series together. And we loved working together. So it didn't go on to series, but we had a great experience. So he called me up after that. I think I might have been working on Lethal Weapon or about to take a job on Lethal Weapon. And he said, I have this thing for Crazy Rich Asians. And my mom had been trying to get me to read the book for a year, and I was too busy, and said, it's called Crazy Rich Asians. It sounds insane. I don't know. But after reading 2 pages maybe of it, I emailed John back immediately saying, I have to do this. Because it's all, the Chinese and the in Singapore and Malaysia, but it was also Malaysian culture, because even though it's set in Singapore, all of it, you have like, the Malaysian royalty, you have Indians, you have people saying alamak, you have like all our food. I was like, Are you kidding me? In Hollywood, never in the 17 years that I was working in TV did I think for 1 second I would be able to write about anything close to my culture. And that was true for the industry. They didn't have many or any projects about Asians at all. And this was not just Asian. It's not like mainland China. You know,
Yeah.
this was home. And it really was a passion project. It wasn't for money. I told him, I'll do it, you know, and also a thing to know about movies is that a lot of scripts that get written never, ever, ever get shot. So at that point, I felt like I'll just do it. You know, it'll be a love letter to my family and to where I came from. And, you know, hopefully it gets made. And it did. Yay.
How much of what you did ended up in the movie? 89%, 95%?
Well, it depends what you mean. Like everything I did, like it ended up in the movie, but in features, like in TV, there are countless drafts. You know, you can have like 3 or 4 official drafts, but unofficial drafts, you're talking about 20, 30 who, you know, you're doing it again and again and again. There was an existing script written by another writer when I came on, but I took it over from that point.
Right.
Why do you think it was such a big success in Hollywood, though, this film?
There are a lot of factors. I think one part of it was Kevin Kwan, an amazing, wonderful writer. The book was already established, and so it had a little bit of a following from that. But I think, honestly, the audience was hungry for something like this. A lot of movies that are made, it feels like it's retreading the same old things. This was a whole world they had no idea existed. And we are telling, it was Asians, but we're not telling it from, you know, a struggling minority point of view, you know, working against the oppressive white culture, even though those stories are very valid, but this was just so joyful. And it, you know, the icing on the cake was just exciting. It's called Crazy Rich Asians. So you're going to go into, you know, you're going to see something crazy, you know, you're going to see something rich, you're going to see beautiful people. But I like to think also at the heart of it, it really was, it came from a heartfelt place. You know, at the end of the day, when you look at the Michelle Yeoh character and the Constance Wu character, it's not just about rich people doing ridiculous things. It was really a story about a mother being afraid to lose her son. And, you know, with every project I work on, I try to find my own personal into it. And I could 100% relate to that. Like what my family went through when I decided to stay in the States. You know, and that's what a lot of Asian families in Malaysia and other Asian countries go through, where you love your kids so much, you work yourself to death, you know, making sure they can get a good education overseas. But when you do that, you understand that there's a risk that you may not get your child back. And that I thought was a struggle that a lot of the community could understand, whether or not you're Asian.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let's get back to the recent Bo Cameronian Arts Awards. It was a local awards organized by Kaki Seni, which sort of honors those in the performing arts community here in Malaysia. And you were given the Game Changers Award as a trailblazer in the industry. So how significant was winning this award for you in your homeland?
Oh, it was such an honor. And also, you know, to say like trailblazing, like malula, like you're like, I don't know if I'm blazing any huge trails. But it was a tremendous honor. And also because of the other people, you know, involved with Bo, and I was such a proponent of the arts growing up, but never really saw a lot of outlets. There wasn't a lot of visibility.
No, I didn't.
Oops. Sorry. 1 minute.
One moment.
Steve, we can hear you.
Sorry, guys.
Steve wanted to be part of the party.
Okay, let's get back to the Bo Cameronian Awards. Okay, what were you saying? I've forgotten now.
Oh, it's such an honor because, you know, when you're growing up, you never think of the arts as being a career you can pursue because you don't really see it. I mean, you see it in like school performances, you see it on TV, but you don't really see the arts being celebrated and vaunted the way, you know, being a doctor, lawyer, you know, being a successful CEO is. And so for Bo to, you know, be a major patron of the arts the way, you know, because in Western societies, like they have, you know, patrons for, you know, the symphony and theater and art and fine arts. And so any effort we can make on, you know, on our end in Malaysia, just to encourage that creativity would be fantastic, because we are so, you know, and I'm sure you felt that too, like growing up in school, I just grew up with so many creative artists and writers and performers, and you'd hate to see that talent sort of, you know, stay hidden. You'd want them to be celebrated. And the last thing I'll say about that too, since being involved and, you know, getting in touch with Joseph Gonzalez, who's part of, I think he was a past honoree, and I was a huge fan of his as a dancer. You know, the work that they're doing and putting Malaysian dances, you know, online and disseminating it. Malaysia is so rich culturally because of all the different cultures, you know, whether it's our language, our arts, our musical performances, but the world doesn't know about it. And it's up to us to really publicize it and push it forward so that we can be celebrated.
Yeah, that's true.
But you don't feel like you trailblazed at all?
No one goes into this going like, I'm gonna blaze the trail. You just think, man, I hope I get to, you know, I get credit on my first TV show so my mom thinks I actually made a good career choice.
Yeah, because a lot of Asian parents don't think of the performing arts as a viable career because, first of all, it doesn't really make you that much money. But it's more of a passion, a career of passion.
Yes, but, you know, I would say that we make our own destiny. And, you know, it is absolutely a career that makes you a lot of money if you are in the right situation. Or I get a lot of inspiration too, looking at South Korea and how, you know, when I was growing up, they were not the cultural powerhouse that they are today. And because they've really leaned into their own music, their own recording artists, their own TV shows, now there was a thriving, amazing industry where there wasn't before. And that wouldn't happen if you didn't have the writers, the actors, you know, and the government support, honestly.
Okay. So how do you think, being a Malaysian working in Hollywood, how have you helped change the performing arts scene here in Malaysia?
I think, I don't know if I have, honestly. I haven't, you know, I feel like you'd have to ask, you'd have to do a survey to see if it's made.
Well, I guess you're inspiring. Yeah, you're inspiring a lot of people, maybe thinking that they can make it if they put their heart and soul into it.
Yes, I think, you know, and I'm very humbled by this because a lot of it was, you know, just so much, you know, being at the right time, the right place, but seeing that, you know, what we do as Malaysians can have a global impact, can be embraced and celebrated by the world, and that our stories you know, deserve to be told as much as anybody else's. And also that, you know, as if you were to work in the creative arts, there really is a path and a future for you. It's not an easy one, you know, and there's not a lot of guarantees the way your Asian parents would want. But if it's something that you are passionate about, you know, you have this one life to live.
Good advice there. But what would be your advice to producers and screenwriters here in Malaysia to be able to sort of produce Hollywood quality TV and movies for Malaysia? What's your advice?
My advice, well, to writers specifically, is to just do it. A lot of writers think that, oh, I'm just going to write in secret and it'll be this one perfect script and maybe it'll take me, you know, 3 years and then I'll show it to the world and then I'll be a celebrated writer. And it never happens like that. The way you improve or, you know, become good at anything is you just work at it and you fail, and you try again. And so I feel like, you know, there has to be this willingness to put something out there. And in this day and age, you know, nobody has an excuse to not be able to produce something that they have in their head. Everybody has an iPhone. The video quality on it is fantastic. Even if you can't get financing from a studio, or find someone to give you a job, if you are a real if you are a real creator, you create, write scripts, whether if you are, and there isn't an age cap on it, whether you're in secondary school, whether you're in college, whether you're just starting out. Write your ideas, shoot it, put your friends in it, try to get some visibility that way. It would be great to have a larger infrastructure, whether it's government encouragement the way South Korea does it. I feel like success is when when opportunity comes and you are prepared, and you don't know when opportunity is going to knock, but you can work on being prepared. So I would just write your heart out and find a way to get it produced.
Now, speaking about, competition and how everyone can create their own content now, like every other person you meet who's a YouTuber, who is a social media influencer, is a content creator. Are you getting more and more competition from all these young people, writing their own things and producing and putting it out on these free platforms?
No, it's a matter of fact. I think because of all these streaming platforms, before there were only a limited number of like channels or even like cable channels. Now there's streaming platforms, and they're niche streaming platforms, and it seems like the global need for content is insatiable. People keep, and all these different platforms, they need content, they need TV shows. And it's great to be an amazing YouTuber or an influencer, but it's a very different thing to come up with a scripted program that's half hour or 1 hour, because that takes a lot of experience and skill to throw together. So even if you have a comedian, with a big following, you still need to pair that person up with an experienced TV showrunner to get like a show off the ground. Or that person has to be on a real fast track and a real quick learner. But no, it's such an exciting time to be in television and in film, because if you just look on Netflix now, you're seeing stories that 5-10 years ago like would not have existed.
Now, you mentioned South Korea though, because before it was just another country, but now BTS, Blackpink, and
Their music, their K-dramas,
Parasite,
everything.
Oh my God, yes.
How far behind is Malaysia? How can we get there? What needs to be done? The interesting, I'm not an expert on it, but the interesting thing about the South Korean experiment is that we have a precedent. We can see how they did it, and it didn't just happen naturally. The government invested a lot of money in it. They wanted to encourage they wanted to encourage tourism, so they gave a lot of production companies, they financed a lot of it and said like, okay, if you have a drama, if you can set part of it in these beautiful national parks or these things, we will subsidize it. They invested a lot of money in the music scene, and so then people had they had a path forward. Young entrepreneurs or people who wanted to get into the arts had a way to do it. And when they first started out, they weren't at the level that they are today, but that's, you always have to start at a certain level.
Yeah.
And I've heard some Malaysians be very dismissive of, TV shows that are locally produced, of like, oh, not the same, the quality is not there. You have to start from somewhere. At least those people are doing it. They're brave enough to be out there to try and get something on the air. The other thing is to encourage it. You can't make a TV show and get it on the air for no money at all. So it needs to come from somewhere. And if the government can at all give it its backing, I think that would be tremendous. And I think Malaysia has so much more potential than it even knows. And I think Crazy Rich Asians really capitalize on some of that, which is we are such a multicultural, rich Asian society, and we all speak English. I mean, not all, but like English is one of like the major languages. So if you were to create a TV show over here, you have the potential of it being able to translate in a way that a lot of Asian powerhouse countries, their entertainment may not translate the same way.
Are you planning to do something like that? Like a Malaysian family in America?
Oh, in America, I would love to do a TV series of a Malaysian family in Malaysia. I would love to, all of us have like our grandmothers and grandfathers telling us like World War II Japanese occupation stories. I'd love to be able to do a wonderful series on, life like right before, during, and right after the Second World War. Because
most of the time, all we get are audacious love triangle soaps here, and some really bad comedic horror movies. That's all we always get here. You know, why can't we just move on from that?
Well, salacious love triangles always sell, and women watch TV, and that's why and it's easy to produce. But yeah, it would be great to get something to mix it up and have something, be a little bit more ambitious and take advantage of, like, again, our rich history, which the world really hasn't seen, which I haven't really seen, done well in a TV show.
Like PJ, the life of Adele.
Oh my God, it'd be so boring.
But what's coming up for you, Adele? What's going on? What's in the books? What can we look forward from Adele next?
Well, after Crazy Rich, I worked with Disney Feature Animation for almost 2 years. So we developed and wrote Raya and the Last Dragon, which is it's fantasy, but it's inspired by Southeast Asia. Nice. And I love her name, Raya.
Bunga Raya?
That's right.
By Bunga Raya? Okay.
Also Raya, just like celebration.
Right.
And so that, it was supposed to come out in November this year, but COVID got everything punted. So it'll be in March of next year. And while I was working on that, I wrote a ridiculous raunchy movie with 2 other girlfriends of mine. We sold it to Lionsgate, and they made me an offer to direct it. So I'm excited about that.
Wow.
Yeah, but again, everything got upended with COVID. So who knows if and when it's going to shoot, but we're still very hopeful about that. And now I'm, just looking in the meantime before, this country makes it out of this mess. But this country isn't like the US. Working on some other features and TV shows.
When are you going to be part of the MCU? Direct a major Marvel movie?
Oh my God, no, like, listen, I'm lucky enough to get this small shot. I would love to see a kick-ass Asian female Marvel superhero. It's time.
Yeah. But how raunchy is it? Do you think it'll be shown here in Malaysia?
I know where your mind is.
No, you said raunchy, so I'm thinking it's going to be R.
Oh, it's nasty. It's I think it was, when you write for Disney, it's like, it's such an amazing experience, but part of, your head always goes to like the opposite. And I just wanted to write, my friends and I just wanted to write a movie about, like, our ridiculous, insane Gila girlfriends, doing their ridiculous thing. So if it gets made, fingers crossed, like, I don't even know if it would like air. It would play in Malaysia.
We need to cut. It's an hour movie. We need to cut 50 minutes of it because
it'll be one long bleep.
Thank you so much, Adele, for this very interesting chat.
Raunchy chat.
We look forward to having you back here in Malaysia, maybe helping us, help promote to Malaysia in the.
Oh my gosh! Whatever
in a TV series or something.
Whatever I can do.
I'm thinking like fresh off the boat, but Malaysian in America, kind of.
Yep. Starting up a place to sell laksa.
Nasi lemak diner.
Yeah.
That's right. Rendang 24/7.
Applebee's nasi lemak or something.
Okay,
no, that'd
thank
be
you.
terrible.
Let's take a quick picture before we let you go.
Mm. Hold on. Let me take off my headphones.
Yeah.
Breathe. You good? Not yet. Hold on. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Smile. On 3, say KDU. No.
KDU.
Are all of us on KDU? Like, what's going on here?
I'm not from KDU.
Oh, no, you're not? Okay. I'm from KDU.
I'm from Taylor.
You're from KDU? Oh, what program?
KDU Penang. I took engineering. I took engineering. I studied in KDU. I taught in KDU.
Oh my gosh! And then you became a disappointment to your parents. And
yes, exactly.
Oh no, hold on. I think
wait.
I need to redo that. Okay. It's
okay.
Too small. Okay, hold on. So sorry. Let's get a bigger picture.
Yeah, his parents were very hopeful when he took up engineering.
No,
and now he's been doing radio for 20 years.
Please, they saw my engineering results. They were like, "This boy's not gonna be an engineer, like, please." Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, I think I got it. I'm not sure.
Why was there a warning sign? What's that?
I have no idea. Adele, hold on one moment. I just gotta check.
No worries. Oh.
Yes, got it.
Alexa, turn off all alarms.
Okay.
We got it. We got it.
Stop.
Perfect.
You gotta stop.
Stop
Perfect.
this. Adele, thanks so much. When you come back to PJ, we will